Okay, mic is hot, speakers are turned off. I think everything's ready to go. Roll up my sleeves. Let's do this. Hello! Shadowcat back, and I know this is kind of weird, second day in a row, but we are back with the tabletop stream. We are back to working on Warhammer 40k. There's still a lot to do. However, that being said, I do think that we're close to the end. When it comes to the Tau Arsenal, they have a large arsenal. We've gone through and done a lot of stuff. We did their armor, we did all their EMP weapons, we did all of their ion weapons, we did Kroot guns, we did Vespid guns, we did fusion guns. We've done a lot of stuff so far. And now we're getting down to the end. So let's go ahead and bring in our spreadsheet. That way we got something to reference here. So on today's list, we need to get done photon grenades, burst cannons, heavy burst cannons, and pulse bombs. We already did the neutron blast when we did the Vespids. But we've got rail rifles, heavy rail rifles, rail guns, heavy rail guns. They're all basically the same thing. And we might already have rules for some of them, I'm not sure. So we'll have to check that out. But I think that we're going to be able to finish this up today. Now, after that, there are all the Tau technologies and support systems, and there's a lot of those. If we bring in the browser, we take a look at that. So under Tau War Gear, we've got ion weapons, fusion weapons, marker lights, pulse weapons, stuff like that. But then when we get into the technologies and support systems, there's a lot of those too. Advanced stabilization systems, advanced ground targeting systems, automated repair systems, black sun filters. There's a lot. And we would have to go through each one of these to determine whether it's a power armor upgrade or a vehicle upgrade. And then we would have to apply it appropriately. So, definitely not doing that today. Definitely not doing that today. But what we are doing is we're going to finish off, hopefully, all the rest of the stuff on this list. So, let's go ahead and get into it then. First thing on the list, photon grenades. So, we're going to go photon grenades. Now, we already did EMP grenades, and those were... there was a lot of those. We did 5 tiers of EMP grenades. We could potentially do 5 tiers of the EMP, or not the EMP, the photon grenades too. So why don't we go ahead and copy this? Well, first off, we gotta copy this. Actually, we can do both. This function cannot be used in multiple selections. Screw you. Just copy what I tell you to copy. If I can select it, why can't I copy it? Alright, here we go. There we go. So we've got photon grenades, we got levels for them. Now, what do photon grenades do? And I apologize for that. I am still recovering, and since we got dumped on with several inches of snow yesterday, and I've been spending all of my time outside, I'm not doing so great today. Myself and cold don't mix. I'm thoroughly convinced that cold was sent here by Satan. Specifically to punish me. So I'm sorry that everybody else has to suffer because of me. But, you know, I'm not sorry enough to actually do anything about it. Regardless, photon grenades. Let's see if we can find them. Pulse bomb generators. Pulse, long shot. Here we go, photon grenades. Okay. A photon grenade is a type of defensive grenade that all fire warriors and pathfinders are equipped with as standard arms. They are designed to be used in a situation where enemy forces advance too close to the Tau firing line. A photon grenade can repel the attackers with a dazzling pulse of multi-spectrum light and a deafening sonic burst. This will often blind and disorient the attackers, confusing them and allowing them to charge, or slowing their charge, so that the Tau infantry are able to respond with further volleys of lethal firepower. While the disc-like photon grenades are usually thrown by hand, pulse carbines mount underslung photon grenade launchers as standard so that the grenades can be used to pin down enemies from further distance. So what I wrote before is accurate. It's a flashbang. So blinding, deafening, and confusing. We can work with that. Okay. So then how are we going to do this? I'm going to move this down a little bit so that we can work up here. So these are going to blind, deafen, and confuse. And when we do this, we're going to need to give them some kind of scaling resistance. So all of these are going to be fortitude saves. And because I don't want to make them too overpowered, I'm going to make them all roll individually. Which sounds like a lot of work. We are talking about having 3 saves being forced by a single roll. So I throw a photon grenade, I throw it in this area, I am now forcing 3 saves on everybody in it. But because I'm forcing 3 separate saves, it means that you could be affected by all of them, none of them, or some combination of those 3. Which, given that we do have 3 conditions here that we want to work with, is going to be better for whoever's on the receiving end. Which, you know, as a player, you're like, well, that's terrible if I'm the one throwing it, but then you got to keep in mind that anything that you can throw at your enemies, they can throw back at you. So having 3 separate saves, I think, will be fine. What we are going to do is, I think, because if I just make it equal to the DC, then the level 1 is useless. And I don't want it to be useless, especially given that these don't actually do any damage. They cannot be useless. Absolutely cannot be useless. So what I think we'll do instead is I think it's going to be a fortitude save, DC of 5 plus the weapons level. Which means that at level 1 our grenade will have a DC of 6, which is passable pretty much all of the time. You could succumb to it, but, you know, it's like they said in Cowboy Bebop. The cheap ones are worthless. At level 5, it becomes a DC 10. At level 9, it becomes a DC 14. At level 13, it becomes a DC 18. And at level 17, it becomes a DC 22, which is quite respectable. It's not, you know, the best, but it's quite respectable. Now, by that time, you might have different kind of gear that will make you immune to some of these things. But regardless, I do think that this will work out well. So we're going to do that. And we're just going to say Photon Grenade Mark 1. Photon Grenade Mark 2. And we're just going to do this because grenades don't get fancy names. And Photon Grenade Mark 5. Price, not going to worry about it. Damage is nothing. There's no damage. The range, however, the range is going to be thrown. How far do they usually let you throw these? Grenades, 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 grenades. That's grenade launchers. Here we go, grenades. Range is 20 foot, 20 foot, 20 foot, 20 foot, 20 foot, all the way down. So, 20 foot. Critical. There is no critical on these. They simply do a job and that's it. Capacity is going to be 1, of course. It is just a grenade. It is not a magazine of grenades, it's just a grenade. They are considered light. And special is going to be simply C overview. And there we go. So that takes care of photon grenades. Super simple. It's not a complicated concept. We have flashbang grenades now. We've been using them for a long time. We have an understanding now. Turns out 40,000 years from now, the entire concept of a flashbang grenade hasn't changed much. I mean, for good reason. It's not a complicated concept because we're not complicated people. We have eyes, we have ears. The entire purpose of a flashbang is to prevent you from using both of those. We still have eyes and ears in the future. Now, would this work on, say, an Astartes, who has all kinds of genetic upgrades to make their eyes and ears basically impervious to everything? Probably not. I mean, it blinds, it deafens, and confuses. If we come back and look at our Adeptus Astartes... let's see. The oculobe gives them better perception and low-light vision, but it's not immunity to blinding. The lineman's ear gives them advantages on saves versus deafened. So they get to roll twice and take the better result if you throw this thing at them. Which is cool. There's nothing to stop them from being confused. So technically, yes, this would still work on an Astartes. Alright, well, I mean, that's good to know. Cool, it works in Astartes. Okay, then. And I guess if it'll work on an Astartes, it'll work on anyone. So, that is going to be photon grenades. Next, we're going to get into the burst cannons. Now we get into the fun stuff. Flashbangs are useful. But are they fun? No, not really. Now we get into the burst cannons. And where are those going to be? Here they are, burst cannons. Okay, so what does it say about burst cannons? Multi-barreled weapons capable of sustaining very high rates of fire, burst cannons are an offshoot of the Tau pulse weapon technology. They are usually mounted on Tau battlesuits and vehicles, providing heavy anti-infantry support. They have 4 barrels and are short-range like pulse carbines, though this deficiency is offset by the maneuverability of the Tau units commonly armed with them. Long-barreled burst cannons are variants of the standard burst cannons usually mounted on Tau aircraft, and possess almost double the range due to their extended barrel lengths. Okay. So we have burst cannons, and then long-barreled burst cannons. Then we have heavy burst cannons, which is a larger variant of the standard burst cannon, often mounted as the primary arm on the experimental Riptide battlesuit. And I think that's about it. Because then we get into pulse submunitions. But I mean, pulse submunitions are... Is that something we have written down? I have burst cannons, heavy burst cannons, and we have pulse bombs. I don't think I added pulse cannons. The pulse submunitions rifle... It's basically just a submachine gun version of the pulse rifle. I think that's why we skipped it. Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. We're gonna do burst cannons right now. So it looks like we've got 3 that we have to do. There's the burst cannon, the long-barreled burst cannon, and the heavy burst cannon. And all of them are going to be vehicle weapons. So, that being the case, I'm just going to title this entire section Burst Cannons. And that way, I can go ahead and make this, because it says that each one of these is a 4-barreled rotary gun with an extremely high rate of fire. 4 barrels means automatically a D4 when it comes to shots. Okay? You're going to get 1d4 shots. Because it is a high rate of fire, let's go ahead and double that. So it's not just going to be 1d4, let's call this 1d8 shots per use. So on your turn, you decide to use your burst cannon, you roll 1d8, and that's how many shots you get to make with it. However, specifically we need to add this. All shots must be at same target. Okay? You can't just say I've got, I rolled 1d8, I got 6, so I can engage 6 targets at once. No. They all have to be at the same target. You can't make the bullets curve. You can't jank the gun back and forth between shots. It's a stream of bullets. They all have to go in the same direction. Okay. Now we're going to need the headers for this. So copy and paste. Okay. So we have burst cannon, long barrel burst cannon, and then heavy burst cannon, because they're all vehicle weapons. Okay, in terms of range, it does say that the range on these is actually specified. They are short range like pulse carbines, which means that we should be able to just scroll up. And do we have pulse carbines? Did we do pulse carbines? We did pulse weapons. Thought we did pulse weapons, didn't we? Got phased plasma, we have fusion, we have long shot pulse, we have pulse blasters. Yeah, we have pulse blasters. I don't think we ever did pulse carbines. And the reason I think we didn't do pulse carbines is because pulse weapons are just plasma weapons. Yeah, we've got the long shot pulse rifle, which we did because when it comes to plasma weapons, there was no plasma sniper rifle. So we've got the pulse rifle, pulse carbines. Maybe we should have done a pulse carbine, because it does say that they do offer greater portability than an underslung photon grenade launcher. Well, we can go back and we can do that. We're not going to do it at this exact moment, but we can go back and do it. What we can do, however, is we can go to weapons, and if we go up, let's see. These are all cannons. I want rifles. Here we go. Plasma rifles. The plasma rifles all have ranges of about 40 feet. The casters have a longer range. Plasma rifle 60 feet. Plasma rifle 100 feet. So if the carbines have a shorter range, maybe not quite scattergun, but not rifle, what if we were to just, like, have the range? So we'll base this on the best plasma rifle we have at 100 feet, and we'll just say that it has a range of 50 feet. That means that it has a longer range than the Red Star and Yellow Star rifles, but it's worse than the White Star at level 15. So range is going to be 50 feet. Okay? Now the long barrel burst cannon has a longer range because of the longer barrels. So we're going to double that one. That'll be 100 feet. And then the heavy burst cannon, we'll get to it. Size, however, the regular burst cannon is going to just be a small weapon. The long barrel, hard to say, but I think it's also going to be small. However, it can only be on flying, because it goes on the planes. And then the heavy burst cannon is going to be large. We'll get to that in a minute, because that goes on a Riptide. Special, rapid fire, rapid fire, flying only, and then rapid fire. Now, in terms of damage, the small guns are doing D4s, the large guns are doing D8s. So since we are doing D4s and we are potentially doing a lot of D4s, if every shot hit, let's look at our damage caps here. If every shot hit, that's 8 shots, and we're doing D4s, that is a damage cap of 32. And when we compare to, say, the plasma rifle over here, this has a damage cap of 80. So, 1 dice, too small. Instead, if we go with 2 dice, we can double it. So we go from 32 to 64 damage. Which is pretty respectable, although getting 64 damage out of 1 shot, probably not going to happen. What if we go 3 dice? 3 d4s is 12, times 8 is 96. Which is exceeding the damage of that rifle, but it is, number 1, mounted in a vehicle, and thus it's not as handy as a rifle. And number 2, it is reliant on you actually getting all the shots in 1 turn. And then hitting all of the shots in 1 turn, because every individual shot requires an attack roll. I think that's actually fair. So we're going to say plus 3 dice. And I think this is going to go all the way down. Now, when we're talking about the large, well, the large one, that's throwing d8s. So when we talk about damage here, we're talking about 3 dice. If we rolled 8s on all of them, it's going to be 24 damage. 24 times 8. What is that? That's almost 200 damage, I think. 24 times 8. Yeah, that is 192 damage. That is a lot of damage. Let's go down to the heavy weapons and see what they look like. Heavy weapons... laser, plasma. What is the highest damage output here? The highest damage here is a plasma cannon, which does 8d10, so it's only 80 damage. However, it does explode. And explodes in a 10-foot radius. A 10-foot radius means that it can technically encompass, let's see, that would be 5 diameter in both directions. And then fill in the middle, so that's going to be 9 plus 4 is 13 squares. And 13 times 80 is 1040 damage. That is the true ceiling of a level 20 plasma cannon. So having this thing do upwards of 200 damage at its absolute zenith, I think is understandable. Now, since it is restricted to a large amount in the first place, which means that it can only go on something like a Riptide, that even further restricts it. If you're going up against a massive Riptide battlesuit with a heavy burst cannon, the amount of damage that it can put out should not come as a surprise. And so if you get hit by this thing, I honestly think it's kind of on you. It's one of those situations where maybe retreat is the better part of valor. And given that it is a heavy burst cannon, I'm going to give it a range of 75. Let's split the difference here. It's not going to be as long range as a long barrel, but it's going to be a little bit longer than the burst cannon just by virtue of being bigger. And so I think that does it. No matter what Tau battlesuit you happen to get, you can equip a burst cannon on it. And if you happen to be in one of the smaller ones, like a stealth suit or something, then you might actually be able to get that into some places with at least, you know, large doors. Well, then again, we haven't distinguished yet where some of these fall in, because we haven't gotten to battle suits yet. Maybe we should do that next. Instead of doing the war gear, maybe once we finish up with weapons, we should go through and do the battle suits. I don't know. You let me know in the chat what you think we should do after we get done with these weapons, because we're almost done with them. I think we're pretty good here. And so we can go ahead and put a box around this. And if we come back to this, we can go ahead and check these off. Now, next up, pulse bombs. And possibly pulse cannons. I don't know. Let's take a look. So we got pulse carbines there. We got burst cannons, pulse submunitions rifles, pulse submunition cannons. Okay. So when it comes to the pulse submunitions rifle, it is a new development form of the pulse weapon, designed to saturate large areas with plasma pulses at range. While it possesses a slightly shorter range compared to the pulse rifle, the scattered nature of its fire allows it to bypass cover more effectively to target fortified enemies. They were first developed as a primary Tau battlesuit weapon for the Hazard battlesuit to complement its battlefield role as a close-range fire support, and thus far have not been deployed on any other Tau weapons platforms. Oh, JP's in the chat. Hello, JP. I knew that there was somebody there. I can see it where it says how many people are watching, but I didn't know who was here. And JP says, test fire them next. I mean, we're not in a game, though. So I can't test fire them, really. I mean, that is something that we could do. I could pull up Roll20, set up a mock battle, and test them out. That is a thing that I could do. I would need to first build the battle suits to put them on, which means that maybe we should have done the battle suits first. I hadn't really thought that far ahead. But that is something we could do. And Blizz is in the chat and also says test fire. I can't test fire. I don't have anything to put them on. But you know what? Maybe we could do that. Maybe we could do that. Give me just a second here. Give me just a second here. Okay. Both JP and Blizz both say lurking. Yes, I believe it. Both of you are lurking. But you don't have to. It is interactive. You are allowed to come play. Okay then. You asked for it, we're doing it. I need a blank page. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and make that a little bit smaller. Now, we're going to need some robots. So, let's see. Free assets. Sci-fi tokens. That is a spider mech? Spider mech, does whatever a spider mech does. Okay, there's a spider mech. Now, and here's a golem. That'll work too. Okay, so we're going to make him pretty big. And we'll just turn him this direction. And we'll turn our spider mech in this direction so they're facing each other. We will go ahead and... Actually, I'm going to make him a little bit smaller. We're going to go ahead and give the spider mech... what do we want to give him in terms of hit points? Let's go ahead and give this one 30 hit points. And this guy over here, we're going to give him 60 hit points. And he's going to have an armor class of... What's a good armor class? Let's go with... Well, he's really tough, so we're going to give him an armor class of 20. And you, over here, we'll give you an armor class of 15. Okay then, so we're going to give this guy over here the heavy burst cannon. We'll give this one just the regular burst cannon. Now, because of the ranges here, the regular burst cannon can only go 50 feet. Which means he's going to have to move closer. I think. Well, technically we should go from this edge. Still got to move closer. Got to move a little bit closer. So, who gets to go first? Okay, so we're going to roll initiative for both of them, see who gets to go first. JP says a giant can of raid should do it. Believe it or not, in the entirety of the Tau arsenal, in all of their war gear, they do not have a giant can of raid. I know. I can't believe it either, but they actually do not have raid. You'd never believe it for such an advanced civilization, but there are some things that even the Tau can't do. Okay, so, in terms of initiative, the big guy gets to go first. And so, the first thing we do with his cannon is we roll 1d8 to see how many shots he gets. He's going to get 5 shots. Now, because I don't know what their stats are. I'm going to just say this. What are we going to give him for an attack roll? GR 2d4. Alright, so he's got a +4 to his attack roll. That means that if he wants to hit this spider thing, he's going to need to roll 11s. So we're going to go with GR 5d20, but only greater than 10. And that is 4 hits. And 1 straight. Okay, so 4 hits, and because we know that we are dealing 3d8 damage per hit, 3 times 4 is 12, it's going to be 12d8, so GR 12d8. Is 53 damage. That spider is toast. And in 1 volley, too. However, I mean, that's actually really great, because that's some good data. A Riptide going up against some kind of smaller thing, if it targets it, it destroys it. Now, does that mean that the numbers are going to come out exactly the same? I don't know. If it's going up against, say, a person on foot, it's going to be a lot harder to hit than another vehicle. But what if? What if the spider got to go first? How many shots would it get? And JP says, can't see the dice, they are just black shapes on the screen. This may be by design, but just saying. Oh no, it is absolutely by design. Number 1, my color is black. I didn't get the name Shadowcat for no reason. Number 2, I'm the DM, which means the dice are whatever I tell you they are. So not having numbers on the dice is kind of a benefit to me. None of my players can come back and say, well, you know, I rolled this, or you rolled this, and it says this. It's like, nope. The dice are whatever I say they are. I'm the DM. I'm God. So it just kind of works out as a happy accident. Okay, and the spider gets all 8 shots. That is impressive. Now, what is the spider bot's bonus? It's also a 4. So it's going to get 8 shots, that's 8 d20s, and I'm looking for plus 16s. Or no, I'm looking for plus 15s, actually. Okay, so it says 4 successes, but that's because I've typed in 16, even though I need to hit 16, so that's going to be 1, 2, 3... No, that is right. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that is 4. Now, since we're doing d4s, and each one is a 3d4, that's going to be 12 d4s. So we're going to go GR 12d4. And that means that the spider bot, after it, moves up and fires its gun, is going to do 27 damage. It is not going to kill a Riptide. Not in one shot. In fact, it would take it 3 shots, 3 turns to bring down a Riptide. But that actually checks out. I mean, that makes sense. A Riptide is a great big battle suit. It should take multiple turns to take it down. Had to check the window. People are snow blowing outside. Yeah, we got dumped with snow last night. Not terrible, but more snow than I want. The way it sounded, though, I thought somebody with a dirt bike was going up and down the road, and it's like, why would you be doing that in the snow? Okay, regardless, people doing stupid things. Alright, so, I think the burst cannons actually do work out well. So now we look at the submunitions rifles, the pulse submunitions rifles, pulse submunition cannon. We're not doing much, and JP says that was a lot of D4s. Look, half of the fun of Warhammer is throwing lots and lots of dice. Because if I recall, a standard group of like Imperial Guard is like 10 or 20 models. It's a lot of models. And that's why I say, if you like to roll dice, if you like to roll lots of dice, you want to play either Imperial Guard, Orcs, or Tyrannid. Because they all tend to get lots of models and they all tend to throw lots of dice. And so if you get like an entire squad of Imperial Guard, and I think it's like 10 guardsmen, and each one of them in like full auto fire gets to use like 3 shots, then you get to do this. You get to throw 30 D6s. And that's fun. That's a lot of fun. Everybody loves to throw lots of dice. Okay. Anyway, back to this. So the next thing we're going to work on is going to be the pulse bomb generator. Mostly because that's just the next thing that's on the list. So it is a vehicle weapon, it is a large weapon, it is a flying weapon, it is a plasma weapon. We've already established that much. Pulse bomb generator is a primary weapon system for the Sun Shark bomber and is mounted underneath the aircraft's rear hull. When activated, a pulse bomb generator produces a ball of deadly plasma underneath the aircraft in the course of spinning its generating mechanisms. At the pilot's command, a pulsed electromagnetic induction field propels the glaring energy ball towards targets on the battlefield below, sizzling the air around it. The pulse bomb generator explodes on the ground with an incandescent fury, spreading destruction over a wide radius. Okay, there is a lot to unpack there, but we do know that it is going to be a vehicle weapon. It's going to be a flying weapon. So we're going to just copy this. And this is going to be a pulse bomb generator. Let's scroll all this up. Okay, pulse bomb generator. Nope. There we go. So a pulse bomb generator. For this one, to get a range on it, I need to go back and reference the Ultimate Vehicles. And I'm just going to search for bomb. Dive bomber. Bombs. Okay, here we go. So the range on bombs. Dumb bombs, because for all the technology in this thing, it is a dumb bomb. Once you fire off the plasma burst, it has no guidance whatsoever. The range on dumb bombs is about 500 feet. And so that's what we're going to do. Range is going to be 500 feet. Now, the damage. The damage is going to be interested. These say plus 2 dice, plus 3 dice, plus 1 dice. I'm inclined to leave it as a plus 2 dice, just like the dumb bomb. So I'm going to say plus 2 dice. The size, it does say any. However, this specifically goes on the Sun Shark bomber. So the Sun Shark bomber is a Tau aircraft designed to provide atmospheric air support and ground-based fire, or 2 ground-based firecast warriors. Let's see. Each Sun Shark incorporates a pulse bomb generator that takes up much of its dorsal fuselage. Okay, so this is a dedicated bomber. It is absolutely a dedicated bomber. For size, it's really hard to tell what the size is based on the picture alone. There's I don't see any windows or anything to give us an idea of where the cockpit is. I don't see any kind of doors or anything to really judge how big this plane is. So we just have to make an assumption here. I'm going to call this thing medium. As for the special, it's going to be flying only, and it's not going to be limited because it is a generator, so it can just create as many plasma balls as it needs to. I am going to, however, specify that it does plasma damage. Meaning that if you have something that mitigates plasma damage, then it should mitigate the damage from this thing as well. Now, the other thing missing here is going to be radius, because when we look at the Tau war gear, neutron blaster, here we go. The pulse bomb generator says it explodes on the ground with an incandescent fury, spreading destruction over a wide radius. So this thing needs to have range. Now, what about the bombs over here? Oil spill, railgun, here we go. Bombs. Dumb bombs. These weapons are designed to be dropped from a fixed position, usually from a flying vehicle. These weapons tend to be bulky and are used in numbers to produce an area of effect. These are a -6 to hit, but explode to fill a 30-foot diameter effective area. They are limited to flying vehicles. They can carry only as many as the size of the flying vessel. Height is not a factor for distance. Okay, so these automatically hit a 30-foot diameter area. So they have a 15-foot radius. And no, JP, it is not just like the Kaczynski dedicated bomber. I mean, I agree with you in spirit. But Kaczynski couldn't fly. At least I don't think he could fly. Was he a pilot? Wait. One of those guys was actually ex-military. Who was it? Was Kaczynski ex-military? Ooh, he might have been able to fly, actually. Was he Air Force? Questions for later. Okay, I'm going to add in here 20-foot radius. Okay, I'm going to make it a little bit wider than the dumb bombs, but I'm not going to make it like incredibly huge. A 20-foot radius or a 40-foot diameter is still a very large area. A 20-foot radius means that this blast is going to be 9 squares across. And that's just that's an unpleasant day for somebody. Okay, but that's all we need for the pulse bomb generator. The last thing we have to do is the rail weapons. Now this should actually be pretty easy. Because rail weapons already kind of exist. I don't know if we have rail weapons under the vehicles. No, we do have them under the vehicles. Seeing as how we have them under the vehicles already... Sorry about that. We can use this as our baseline. So because it is a medium weapon, it does 2 dice. That means that this thing does 2d6 damage every time you pull the trigger on it. And so we have a rail rifle, heavy rail rifle, rail gun, and heavy rail gun. Let's take a look at what it says. So rail weapons, we understand rail weapons. Rail weapons are not complicated. You have 2 rails, they're magnetized, they're energized, and they fling a chunk of metal. Rail rifles, however, a potent weapon. The rail rifle makes use of the same technologies of the larger rail gun and heavy rail rifle, albeit on a smaller scale so that it's infantry portable. Possessed of an impressively long range and ability to deal great damage, the rail rifle's true strength lies in its armor penetration capabilities. The rail rifle's hypersonic projectile is able to punch through even Terminator armor with ease. Which is like ceramite armor that you would find in Astartes, but better. As a dedicated elite infantry killer, enemy units that manage to survive the rail rifle fusillade often find themselves pinned down, unable to do anything in the face of such deadly fire. The rail rifle also proves effective when used against light vehicles. They have only recently been authorized for issue to frontline Tau units, having completed an extensive field testing phase. So, I think what we are looking at here is another sniper rifle because of the extremely long range. And I'm here for it. I love sniper rifles. Sniper rifles are great. And I'm actually going to save that page. We'll use this one. So, find sniper. Sniper weapons. Projectile weapons. And that's pretty much all we've got is projectile weapons. And technically, these are also going to be projectile weapons. More specifically, though, we need a way to punch through armor. Do we have anything? Yes, we do. We have penetrating. So a penetrating weapon is designed to punch through large objects' outer layers, making it easier to damage them. A penetrating weapon ignores an amount of hardness equal to the weapon's level. Okay then. So that's what we're going to do. It is going to be a sniper. It is going to be analog because it uses bullets. And it is going to be unwieldy and penetrating. That is a lot to put into a gun. So rail rifle. Now, because of this, what I think we're going to do is, because these weapons cap out at 20, and I want to make sure this thing has the absolute highest level of armor penetration it can, we are going to start it off at level 5, then 10, then 15, and 20. Okay, and we're going to need a naming convention for these guys. But we'll get to that in a minute, I guess. Damage, range. Okay, range is going to be really super important. Now, because I don't necessarily agree with the way they do these ranges, having the ranges increase with the levels because somehow these different weapons fire longer, I'm just going to pick one range category, I think, and make them all work. So, the longest range we have let's see, capacity. I'm gonna go with the Shobad instead of the Shirin Eye for this one. It says 160 feet or 1,500 feet. So range, I'm going to call it 150 feet just because I like 150 better. Critical. I'll think about it. Capacity. Oh wait, something I forgot here. I copied the grenades, the grenades down. I need to have these headers. There we go. Capacity is going to be... well, it is a railgun. Capacity will be 10. Usage, of course, will be 1. I mean, all it needs is a magazine of slugs. Not even full rounds, just the slugs. It's a railgun. The bulk, however, is going to be 2. Because it is a big weapon. And special is going to be analog, sniper, actually, you know what I could do? I was literally just lamenting how the ranges go up with levels, but what if we tie this into, like, we might actually tie this into the level. What if we did 50 feet, 100 feet, then 150 feet, and then 200 feet? just so it matches up nicely with the levels. And then we come over here, we can say 500 feet. And then also unwieldy and penetrating. Next is going to be analog sniper. 1,000 feet. Unwieldy and penetrating. Sniper. This will be 1,500 feet. And the last one will be analog sniper. 2,000 feet. Unwieldy and penetrating. Okay. The rest of this can stay the same. That is not what I meant. There. And JP says Metal Slug was a fun arcade game. I've never played it, actually. Believe it or don't. I've never played it. Okay. I need some names here. So, rail, rifle, sliver, rail, rifle, needle, rail, rifle, slug, rail, rifle, round. And that should be good enough. Now, in terms of damage, though, this thing is going to hit like a tank. However, we do not want to give it a huge increase in damage because it already gets penetrating. And so it's already going to get extra damage versus hardened targets. Since we base this off of the Shobad Horizon, this thing is going to deal... Well, the Shobad deals 64 damage at its peak. Which I'm actually okay with. We just need to divide this by 4. And so we could do 8d8, 6, 4, 2d8. So 2d8 piercing, 4d8 piercing. Apparently I've done this before. 68 piercing and 8d8 piercing. Now, in terms of criticals, these do not have a critical. And so, do I actually want to do anything for the critical? Actually, you know what? I really don't. So we're just going to skip the critical on this one. It's going to be just like the regular sniper rifles, except that, actually, no. You know what makes this different? It just occurred to me. The analog means that it uses conventional cartridges and it does not use any kind of energy. This is going to actually not be analog. Now that I realize. It's not analog. Because this thing needs power. Which means that when we look at these, it's going to be charges. Now, we can still keep everything the same. The difference is what you're going to need to buy when you're shopping. Instead of buying ammunition for this thing, you're going to need to buy batteries. It also means that, you know, if you have a battery charger, you'll be able to recharge this thing back on your ship or at a facility on a planet that you're on, whatever it happens to be. It also means that if you're in an area where electronics don't work, then this thing might not work either. So it is going to be an electrical but piercing rifle, which now I think makes it a lot better, okay? It's not just a carbon copy of the other analog sniper rifles. This is now a fusion between the standard sniper rifles and the long-shot pulse rifle, because the long-shot pulse rifle is completely energy-based, doing electrical and fire damage, and it also runs off of batteries. This runs off of batteries, but it does damage like a regular sniper rifle. Now we have a unique weapon. And that's the goal. We wanted to have a unique weapon. I don't see the point in reinventing the wheel. That's why we're not doing a lot of the different pulse weapons, because the rest of the pulse weapons are essentially just basically plasma weapons. If you want to have a pulse weapon, get a plasma weapon and just rename it. There you go. Next is, I believe, the heavy rail rifle. Yes, it is the heavy rail rifle. Heavy rail rifle is similar to the larger rail gun, but slightly smaller, so it can be mounted on a Tau battle suit. Whilst this weapon's range and damage is not as great as its larger cousin, it is still an impressive anti-tank weapon, renowned for its effectiveness at penetrating enemy armor at extreme ranges. The broadside battlesuit is the only Tau unit that is armed with the heavy rail rifle, and it makes use of it with its twin-linked primary weapon systems. That's interesting, because then we get to the rail gun. Rail guns are renowned for their capability to penetrate enemy armor at extreme ranges. It is most commonly mounted as the primary weapon on a hammerhead gunship. Along with these standard solid shot rounds, the railgun is also capable of firing sophisticated sub-munition rounds, which consist of smaller projectiles that can strike a wide area. While the overall damage imparted on impact with this variant of the railgun's projectile is less than standard shot, with such sub-munitions, it is extremely useful for suppressive area fire against infantry targets. And then we get to the heavy railgun. It is a larger version of the standard railgun, usually only mounted on the Manta and the AX-10 variant of the Tiger Shark aircraft. I don't even know what those are. So apparently that's a Manta, and you can't see it very well because it's kind of cut off. That looks like a big ship, though. Like, if that's the bridge, that's a big ship. Or even if that's the bridge right there, that is a really big ship. It says here it is formerly known as the Manta Missile Destroyer, a super heavy Tau void craft that is also the closest equivalent to the Imperium of Man's Titans and Orc Gargants. It is well armored for use in the frontline combat and can deliver massive amounts of firepower to the battlefield. Okay, that's a lot. So here's the thing. When they say Titans, I have to assume they mean like actual Titans and not just Imperial Knights. which I know Imperial Knights are part of the Titanica, but they're not Titans. Like, when we say Gargants, yeah, that's about what I expected to see. Here's the thing. When they talk about Titans, Titans are not really units. Titans are more of a set piece. They are so big, they are so powerful, that honestly, you can pretty much just win a fight by fielding a Titan. As such, Titans are usually used as a set piece, so as you're setting up your battlefield, you can set up that there is a Titan fighting nearby, and so stray fire may hit various points in the battlefield. And usually that's done by picking a target and then having the shot stray. So having established that the Manta is essentially the same as a Titan, it's not like you would ever really see a Manta on the battlefield. Then there's the Tiger Shark. It is a fighter bomber often encountered flying in support of hunter cadres during major operations. It is faster and more maneuverable than the Imperium's direct equivalent, the Marauder bomber, but the Tiger Shark lacks the large bomb payload of its Imperial aircraft. They are never as numerous as on the Tau battlefield as the Barracuda, but it has many features and systems in common with it. Okay. So, I mean, I guess you might see one of those, maybe. Still, we will do the heavy railgun. We'll put down the stats for it. But it's automatically going to be relegated to a large weapon. Which does technically mean that, you know, if a Riptide is a large battlesuit, you could put railguns on it. You could even put the heavy railguns on it. Riptides are going to have a lot of options. Okay. So, we've established that the heavy rail rifle, railgun, and heavy railgun are going to be vehicle weapons. That means that when we come to the Tau Arsenal, I am just going to say vehicle, rail, weapons. We're going to grab these headers. And we will say heavy rail gun. We already have stats for rail guns. So we will then say heavy rail gun. Now is where we come back to here, because we have rail guns. Now, rail guns, we already have the stats for. They go 3,000 feet, they use 2 dice, they are medium in size, and they are limited to 20 shots. Okay? So we're going to do exactly that. I am going to go ahead and say that the heavy railgun will go 2,000 feet. Okay? The damage, however, the damage will be plus 2 dice, but the size is going to be small because it has to go on battlesuits, which means it has to go on the smaller battlesuits like the Crisis battlesuit. I think the Crisis battlesuit is one of the smaller ones. I should know by now since I've been doing this long enough. And it's going to be limited to, I'm going to say 30. Just because it doesn't actually have to store the entire round. Actually, I'm going to bump that up to 40. It just has to store slugs. And so that takes care of the heavy railgun. Or rather, heavy rail rifle. I better fix that. There we go. Heavy rail rifle. The heavy rail gun, on the other hand, is going to go 3,000 feet, just like the regular rail gun. It will do +2 dice, but it will be restricted to large and limited to 40. Well, yes. Actually, no, I take it back. Because I'm comparing this directly to the actual railgun in the game already. Which already uses metal slugs, and it says limited to 20, so these are going to be limited to 22, or 20 now as well. So, now what we essentially have is a railgun for every size. If you're in a small battle suit, or a small vehicle, you can have a heavy rail rifle. If you're in a tank of some kind, or like a hammerhead, take the rail gun. If you're in something really big, like a broadside, then you can have the heavy rail gun. And each time you are rewarded by having more damage. And so we can go ahead, put a box around that, and we've got our rail rifles and rail guns done. Which means we come over here, we can clear out the pulse bomb, they're done. We can take care of the rail weapons, they're done. And I think we're done. All of the weapons and armor for the Tau. Finally done. That is a lot. But you know what? It looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. So if you are Tau, you have a lot of options. You have a lot of options. Especially if you are starting off with a Tau character. I mean, if you are starting a Tau character, you have the option of buying pretty much anything here. So if you make a Fire Warrior, well, technically if you play anything, but if you're Fire Cast and you take Fire Warrior armor, you can get some good armor. Recon armor, again, Fire Cast, but if you're playing Fire Cast, then that's great. You've got EMP weapons, EMP blasters, EMP grenades. Let's see, we've got ion weapons, which are exclusively used against robots. I think, well, yeah, more or less. No, the EMP is explicitly against robots. Ion weapons will work against pretty much everything. We've got weapons for Kroots. Kind of hoping that I see a Kroot, but, you know, either way. Yeah, they get advantage on damage, so that's great. We've got melee weapons. Well, no, the Kroot weapons are both ranged and melee, so that's fine. We've got neutron blasters for the Vespids, which are just horrifying since they target your touch AC and they completely ignore your armor and shield. Well, no, they don't ignore your shields because shields are used as temporary hit points, but still, your armor can't save you from them. We've got marker lights, which, I mean, I would highly advise you get one. At least one. We've got fusion weapons. We've got pulse weapons. We've got photon weapons. We've got burst weapons. We've got rail weapons. We're in good shape when it comes to the Tau. So now it comes down to what are we going to do next? The next thing we're going to have to do is going to be either the Tau technologies and support systems or their vehicles. And after discussing After discussing all of the different battle suits and things by making the rifles, I think the next thing we need to do before we do the Tau technologies and support systems is we need to do the battle suits. We need to do the battle suits. That way we know exactly what we're upgrading. Now, we're not going to get to the actual battle suits today. However, I think we need to start making a list. So, first things first, let's go ahead and establish what the Tau have in terms of their battle suits. Okay, I need a drink real quick too. Okay. So, battle suits, they're in here somewhere. Battle suits. Sorry about that. Okay, Tau battle suits. So a Tau battlesuit is an advanced powered combat exoskeleton that forms an integral part of the Tau Firecast military forces. Now, while it says combat exoskeleton, that is only partially true from what we've established. So the first thing we have, of course, is this. We have seen this picture before. We have stared at it for long periods of time. Open that in a new tab so we can look at it a little bit bigger. But we've got a fire warrior here. Next thing is a stealth battle suit, which I think is going to simply be powered armor. After that, we have a crisis battle suit, which is obviously going to have a chair because, well, his legs just ain't that long. Then we're going to have a crisis battle suit, a broadside, which is a little bit bigger, and then we will have a riptide, which is the biggest. And since we've got one guy here, and since we know that Tau are about 2 meters tall, so about 6 feet, a little bit less, we can establish that it takes 2 of him to make 1 leg, so that's 4 meters, and if the leg and torso are approximately the same, that means that this thing stands about 24 meters tall. If we multiply that by 6, or no, wait, hold on, I did that wrong. 2 meters, 2 to make a leg is 4 meters, times 2 legs for the total height is going to be 8 meters. So only 8 times 6. That's 48 feet tall. Call him 50 feet tall just to round things out. So that is going to be a big, big robot. And I love big robots. Alright, now we need a list of battle suits. Can I find a list of battle suits? Let's see, below our numerical codes. Oh, that is interesting, actually. Okay, so below are the secondary numerical codes and the tactical function assigned to each one of them. Note that these numbers should be read as XVX1, whereas the XV designates the unit as a Tau battlesuit. The small x represents the number from 1 to 9, or 10 in the case of the XV-10-4 and XV-10-7, indicating the class of battlesuit, and the second numeral indicates the battlesuit's operational role. So XVX1 designates it as any mass class believed to exist only as a theoretical prototype, all the way up through XVX9, which designates it as any mass class for frontline assaults. Let's see, battlesuits have to be earned, that's fine. Then there's notable battlesuits. Is this the closest I'm going to get to my actual list? It might be. Okay. In that case, let's start making a list. Let's start making a list. Oh, and JP says, I want to see dice in battle when it's 3d8 damage, so you get to throw 3 exploding dice. I don't have exploding dice, though. I can't help you with that one. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to just say... We're going to include this battle suit as kind of like our base level. It does say that it's a unique and experimental prototype of the battlesuit designed for use in conjunction with Tau vehicles, most notably the Hammerhead. It was chosen to trial the newly designed battlesuit. With its upgraded interface, it could become one with this vehicle, reacting instantaneously alongside various artificial intelligence or AI functions within the Hammerhead. I don't see a reason why we couldn't do that, although that might count as a type of armor. So this is going to be a pilot battle suit. After that, we get to the stealth suit, which is this thing right here. Okay. So then we got the stealth battle suit. And both of these, I think, are going to be powered armor. So we've got stealth suit, battle suit, Vanguard void battle suit, Commander void battle suit. And then we get into the Crisis battlesuit, which then comes in a whole bunch of different variants. Okay, so the Crisis battlesuit, I think, is the next step up. Yeah, that's this brown guy here. And it's going to be the first of our real vehicles. So, Crisis battlesuit. Now, the Crisis battlesuit, as we look at it, if he is roughly 1 meter tall, 6 feet, this thing is roughly 12 feet tall. Now, when we look back at vehicles, and we look at the sizes of vehicles, let's see, size and description. This details the general size of the vehicle's body. It is this base which modifications and add-ons can be changed. Okay, but it doesn't actually say how big it is. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to come down to walkers. Okay. So, walkers. It says the medium-sized walker vehicles are commonly used in rough terrain and provide a variable platform for vehicles that can be used to explore or as armor or armored as sentry units for military walkers. These can carry up to 2 medium passengers and a small cargo area. I do not know if there are any Tau battlesuits that hold more than 1 person. So we may have to modify that. And that's fine. We can modify that as we will. We can just simply say, look, it doesn't carry 2 medium passengers, but if we go ahead and say that it carries only 1 medium passenger, we can give it a larger cargo area. So, I mean, we can still make things equal. This vehicle is 8 feet wide, 10 feet long, and 10 feet tall. Since we just established that a crisis battlesuit is about 12 feet tall, I think we can go ahead and say that this is going to be a medium walker. Now, the next one. Sorry about that. Let's see. We've got battlesuit, crisis battlesuit, enforcer battlesuit. It is a larger and sleeker variant of the crisis battlesuit that provides better protection and joint movement for the pilot. But even so, we've got Crisis, we've got Cold Star, Crisis, and then we get to the broadside. Now, we check this picture. This is the Enforcer. And so, if this thing is 12 feet tall, the Enforcer is about 15, I would say. That's a pretty good a pretty good assumption, I think. We can call it about 15 feet tall. Now, the real question here is, and I'm gonna pull this up because I don't lose my place there. Ultimate vehicles. I need to find size. Okay, here we go. Mass transportation, jump jets, hover, flight systems, fast cargo. Somewhere in this list is going to be what I want. So, optional modifications. Launcher systems, lumbering, military miniaturization, oversized. Here we go. This increases the size of the vehicle by 1 step, increasing a small to a medium to a large, and large to a huge. This increases the passengers by 20%, minimum of 1, or cargo. It increases cover by 1 step, none to partial, partial to full. It increases the vehicle frame cost by 20%, the piloting penalty by 2. And here we go. Double the length, or the size, height, width, and length. So, if a medium walker is 8 wide by 10 long by 10 tall, that means that it will not be considered large until we hit 20 feet. So we can go ahead and say that the Enforcer is absolutely just a medium size, and there's literally nothing we have to change. The Enforcer and the Crisis are essentially, on paper, the same thing. Now, that takes us to the next one. I believe that's going to be the broadside. Yep, broadside battlesuit. A broadside battlesuit is the most heavily armored infantry unit that can be fielded by the Tau Firecast, and as such are only worn by the most experienced of Tau veterans. While similar to the standard Crisis battlesuit, it sacrifices mobility and maneuverability to be armed with some of the most devastating weapons in the Tau arsenal. Okay, now we are getting somewhere. Means that we might have to go back and actually modify some of our weapon classifications, because if we deemed a broadside weapon to be large, it's going to have to be medium. But we can go ahead and say broadside battle suit. It's going to be a medium walker. Now, both of these are medium walkers. That means that both of them are going to be the same, right? No, not quite. It does mean that technically we could build them both up using these same stats, but these are going to be pre-built units. And so we will make sure that the Crisis Battlesuit is more maneuverable, the Broadside Battlesuit is more heavily armored. And as such, even though they're both classified as medium walkers, they're going to be different. Next up is going to be the Hazard Battlesuit. And when we look at the Hazard Battlesuit, I don't see it. It's not here. Because this goes straight from the Broadside to the Riptide. Now, to be fair, we already counted up and said that the Riptide is roughly 8 meters tall, which is roughly 48 feet. We're going to run that to 50 feet, which means that if a medium walker is 10 feet tall and a large is 20 feet tall, where does that leave us when it comes to the broadside? So you double the size, which means that a 10-foot medium becomes a 20-foot large. That also means that when we double it again to make the Riptide, we're going to double it to go from being 20 feet tall to 40 feet tall at a minimum. So it's going to be considered a huge. So knowing that the Riptide will be huge, and the Riptide is down here, I think that we can effectively call both the Hazard Battlesuit and probably the Ghost Keel Battlesuit large. So Hazard Battlesuit, large walker, and the Ghost Keel. Then we're going to come down to the Riptide and the Ravarna. Although it does say the Ravarna is a rare variant of the recently introduced Riptide. And if the Ravarna is a rare variant of the Riptide, and the Yavara was rushed into success after rushed into service after the success of the Ravarna, I think it's basically the same. So I'm just going to go ahead and say Riptide Battlesuit is going to be a huge walker. Okay. So that takes care of those. But we're not done with the Tau yet. Then we have the Storm Surge. Oh, right. These guys. I remember these guys. I don't like these guys. They don't have arms. Which always makes me think they were going to tip over. Like, honestly, just throw some Astartes in there, okay? Give them some ropes and grappling hooks. Throw them at a Storm Surge unit. Just get them to tip the damn thing over. Problem solved. It can't get back up. Okay, Storm Surge. First in a new breed of Tau super heavy war assets. They carry the firepower to annihilate whole columns of tanks or fell super heavy walkers with a single earth-shaking volley. Though not as swift or as agile as the Riptide, a single Storm Surge can alter the course of battle in solar seconds. Okay, so we'll need a Storm Surge. That will also be a huge walker. Yeah, I mean, I love the giant robots, but that's like one that I just can't take seriously. So what is it actually packing? What is the big gun? Roll. Yes, I understand. Let's see. To this end, the ballistic suit is fitted with a secondary generator specifically to power its Titan-killing weaponry, and is regularly used as a platform to field test experimental Tau weapons. Most of these Storm Surges are operated by a carefully selected pairing of veteran Hammerhead crewmen who have graduated through the Ballistic Suit Academies on Borkin. A pair! So it's the first suit that we've actually had acknowledged that it is actually piloted by two people. Interesting. Armament. Standing even taller than the Ghost Keel battlesuit, which is already huge. Storm Surges are the true behemoths to behold in the battlefield. Now, interestingly, it says that it stands even taller. However, huge is the only thing that we've got here. However, I do not see why I could not make a gargantuan size after this. Or would it be colossal next? I forget. Let's see. They're advanced with a Black Sun filter, multi-tracker, but what about the guns? Their primary weapon system is either a pulse driver cannon or a pulse blast cannon. These weapons are some of the largest pulse weapons at the Tau disposal, and we did not even see them in the war gear. So we may have to go back and actually add these in later. A pulse driver cannon? Yeah, that's the big gun. It employs superheated plasma on a scale that leaves only glowing craters to mark where its targets once stood. Cool. So it's really just a really big pulse gun. And then it's got the cluster rocket system. Because there's nowhere to hide. Okay, so Storm Surges. Huge walker. Maybe? It might actually be the next step up. Okay, and then we get to the Tau-Nar Supremacy Armor. Larger than any other current class of Tau battlesuit, intended to meet a threat the Tau Empire has not yet prepared for: the defense of worlds within their growing domain from the counter-expansion forces of other starfaring races. Cool. I'm actually not familiar with that one, but I like it. Okay, we can do that. Let's see. When encountering increasing numbers of enemy heavy assault elements, from Imperial Knights to towering alien monstrosities to Tyranid hive fleets, Tau heavy flyers were often outclassed. Earthcast engineers. Let's see. Okay, so this thing is literally built to counter Imperial Knights. Alright, so we're going to call this the Tau-Nar Supremacy Armor. And I still don't know if that's going to be huge or if we have to make it bigger. I don't know how big an Imperial Knight is yet, because we haven't made one yet. Okay, but I do think that is the end of their battle suits. Now that being said, they have other vehicles. They have other vehicles. Let's see. The Hammerhead, formerly known as that. Can I find just like a list of vehicles? Can I get a list of vehicles? Battlesuit teams. That's history. I don't care about history. The overall design is based off of the Devilfish chassis. Take a look at the Devilfish. It's an armored troop carrier. I may have to do a little bit of digging to find a list of all the Tau vehicles. Because we're going to know what all of their different tanks are, all of their different planes are. We know they've got a lot of them. I just need to know what all of them are. And when it comes to war gear, it's just not in here. This is literally just everything for infantry. But while you might not have a tank with you all the time, we still have to know what they are, because if/when you get your ship, you'll probably be able to bring some stuff with you. Like, you may be able to bring a battle suit or a hammerhead or something with you. I don't know. We're not there yet, but we have to be prepared for it anyway. Still, though, this is not a bad list to start with. That is going to be a whole bunch of battle suits that we can make stats for. And once we get the stats for them, we'll be able to better assess what the different Tau technologies and support systems should do. So between now and the next episode, I will finish off this list by getting all the other actual vehicles they use. Whether they're tanks, or transports, or planes, or even the big manta things maybe. I don't know. But I'll finish off that list, and we can start actually building these things. We'll start with, of course, the powered armor, because that's going to be the easiest. And then we'll actually start getting into the actual battle suits. The vehicle battle suits, the mechs. But I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up there. It's a good place to leave off. We've got our plans for the future made. We've made a ton of progress already. Once we get done with the battle suits, which should not take that long, I don't think. I don't think it'll take that long, because we've already got the format set. We just have to kind of fill it in. And so it'll primarily be just about filling in hit points, armor, speed, things like that, and then we go through the optional things to make each battle suit unique. It's the options that are going to make the Crisis different from the Broadside. That's going to make the Hazard different from the Ghost Keel. So we'll get started on that one next time, which means if you want to be here for it, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified the next time the stream comes out. Next week there will not be a lecture because I will be busy on that Saturday. Sunday, however, will not change. So we'll be here to work on battle suits. If you know somebody else who is also into Warhammer or tabletop games, you think they might enjoy this, share it with them. Otherwise, though, if you just like me and what I do, leave a like on the stream or the video afterwards. Leave comments down below or join the Discord. link is down below. And hopefully I'll see you there. So, that being said, I will see you next time. And until then, take care.